Third time's a charm. Okay. This is Two Grumpy People, continuing our P.S.A. series with scams,
frauds,
flimflams,
shenanigans,
shams,
cons,
schemes.
You gave me too much money. Huh? It's not going to cost all this. Have you got 2 10s for a 5? Just so happen to have it. That's it. Now.
That Elizabeth, I like her.
She's a regular scout, that's why. There's a woman that knows her stuff. Now, let's see, the baggage room is there. The baggage room is around here somewhere.
Okay, so remember last time when we were talking, we said there was something kind of familiar about one of the cases.
Yeah, there was something along the lines of, we saw this, read the article about these dance group or something like that.
Yep.
They went to Florida, but they got
That's
ripped
the one.
off.
Yes. Well, the reason it was so familiar, or maybe the reason it was so familiar, was actually this wasn't the first time.
Happened before.
Yep. Back in, I think it was 2013 now. There was a husband and wife named Melanie and John Swopes, not Snopes, not Snopes, that's a different site, the Swopes, who owned a company called the Blue Sky Journeys travel agency.
Also sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, well, it should. There's hundreds of agencies online called Blue Sky something, so Blue Sky Ventures, Blue Sky Travel, Blue Sky Air.
There's a lot of blue skies out there.
Yeah, it's a very common name. I mean, I guess it makes sense as a travel agency. It's kind of a fitting kind of name. But in this case, it was the Blue Sky Journeys of Franklin, Tennessee.
Okay.
And what happened in this case was they actually charged the Ann Carroll Dance Studio dancers about $60,000 for
$60,000 for what?
For an all-inclusive trip to Disney World. So
better be.
Right, with hotel, park passes, all that stuff.
Okay.
With the great big cherry on the top, which would have been a dance with Goofy.
Okay, yeah, $60,000 dance with Goofy.
Well, and there were 120 participants, girls and
okay, 120 people
and their parents, right? So a total of 54 families were involved in this.
Okay.
They sent their money by PayPal or by check, and then when they arrived to Disney World, they went to get a ride to the hotel, and found that their reservation numbers didn't work. So they managed to get transferred to the hotel, to the whichever
resort it was.
Resort it was, yeah, I don't know which one it was. And got there, and the Disney person sort of took them aside in a little conference room and said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but you don't have reservations with us. Apparently, whoever you gave the money to, that's as far as the money went."
Mm-hmm.
So they had nothing. Now, in this case, it worked out a little better for the girls and their families because there were 120 of them, and there were a few moms among the group that were able to write checks to cover the full amount so that they could stay and continue their trip, including one of them, which this was a report from NashvilleScene.com. That's where I got this information from. One of the moms was actually the wife of country and western star Trace Atkins. So luckily in this case, these were moms who were from a little bit higher income bracket, and they were able to cover it for all of the girls. But they wisely did something, and that was they said, well, we'll pay for it, but only if the police get involved. So they went ahead and called and made a report at the time.
That's a very good tip, to go ahead and immediately, as soon as you find out something went wrong, get people involved.
Get the authorities involved, definitely. Now, it ended up being investigated by the DA, or by the Attorney General, actually, and the couple involved were actually indicted. Now, they were supposed to go to trial in October, but from all of the research I could do online, I couldn't find where they had actually adjudicated the case.
Okay.
But apparently, with these two, there was a whole lot of other things that happened, complications, additional charges that ended up being pressed, and little incidents that came up. They've been accused of a number of different things. For one, according to the Attorney General, the husband, John Swopes, was accused of collecting unemployment while running the travel agency.
Double dipping.
Yeah, it's kind of a big no-no. They were also charged with, when you say double dipping, how very appropriate, because apparently, according to the Attorney General, they also attempted to deposit a couple of the checks twice.
So they put it in on their phone or whatever, typed it in. Okay, here you go, and then they went to the bank with the paper check.
Paper check, exactly. I don't know if they thought that it worked. Maybe it had worked for them in the past. I don't know, but that's pretty nervy. I don't think I'd have the nerve to do that.
No.
It's too easy to get caught like that.
Yeah.
But well, obviously they
Obviously.
they got caught. So allegedly, I'm sure he has some defense lined up. He'll probably say it was an accident, mistake, whatever.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's the accusation. That's the allegation against them. They were arrested and actually indicted, and so we don't know if they're going to go to jail or anything. But apparently, while all of this was still going on, of course, Disney was aware of the case because the ladies were right there at Disney and was dealing with the Disney staff. So the Disney company actually yanked their right to sell Disney.
Yeah.
They had been what's it called again? A Disney
authorized reseller or an authorized agent.
Right. So they had been an authorized agent, but they lost that authorization, and they actually shut down their web page. But the funny thing is that they during that same time period they started another business with a different web page called Fantasy and Dreams. Now they don't sell Disney packages on that website, or they didn't sell Disney packages on that webpage. They sold like trips to Bahamas and stuff like that. It was supposed to be a completely independent business, but apparently it's also shut down now.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually went on the websites. They're Wix pages.
Yeah, they're created free on Wix.com.
Yeah, and you actually saw something interesting when you went on there on one of the web pages.
Well, one of the things I noticed is obviously since it hasn't been updated since about 2013, which is when they were told to shut it down, most of the links and stuff didn't work. But the real interesting thing was I clicked on one of the events. They had an event tab, and the Ann Carroll Group's page was there. And there was a link on there, or not a link, but a menu box on there so that you could, I guess if you were part of their group or something, you could pay on that trip. There was like, you could say $300 or whatever and hit the button for PayPal and it would send them the money right on that webpage.
I don't think they're still collecting.
I hope not.
I hope not. The business is defunct, so.
But that page, it's a free, you can tell it's one of their free ones because it has a username.wix.com/ and then it just says edited version. So, they couldn't even be bothered to change the name.
But it was a really nice looking web page.
It did look nice.
So if you want to get with Wix, apparently Wix has very pretty web pages. And what was funny was it actually linked to a known writer who produces books, but also I think he does articles as well.
Mm-hmm.
That everyone knows. What was that again? You might want to take his name off of there.
Yeah, it was like it was the link was like Bill's Notes or something like that, and it went to I might say the wrong name, Disney Fanatic.
I wasn't Disney Fanatic.
It was Disney something.
Yeah, but it was well known.
We'll show it.
You know who you are. Yes, you know who you are. You might want to see what you can do to get your name off of that. You don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah, you don't want to have a link on that website.
Yeah, and I wonder, were they actually affiliated with him in some way, or did they just link to his page? Because you can link to almost any page and make it part of your web page.
Yeah.
They might have been just trying to use that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because people do get fooled. I mean, your friends and family sometimes do shady stuff. It's not necessarily your fault. It doesn't necessarily reflect on you. It's interesting, though, that they did that. The other thing to note is those web domains are available. So if you would like the web domain Blue Sky or what's the other one? Dreams.
I thought another thing was interesting is because I tried to do who is search on the websites to see who owned them exactly. And those ones didn't pop up because they're technically owned by Wix, and so they go under their domain. But the person who opened the Wix sites, Jay Swopes, yes, Jay Swopes, owns a website called bsjfacebook.com. Blue Sky
Yeah.
at facebook.com.
Yeah, that makes sense.
bsjfacebook.com. Currently not showing anything, but I just thought that was funny.
Oh, that's very interesting. So,
Might be added again.
I don't know. He's been arrested a few times on different charges, so it's unlikely that he'll be running another business real soon. But who knows?
Never know.
Yeah, who knows? Some people seem to have no shame. So, that's our first case.
Yeah. So, what are the best ways to avoid kind of thing happening
excellent.
to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, obviously, we're not experts in, travel agencies or
We
anything
don't really
like
use
that.
them very often, but
But we did notice that several travel agents had been queried in connection with the case, or they have their own websites, and they pretty much all said the same thing. Well, we don't really know this particular case, but there were some red flags to look out for. The number one was that, as we noted, they were taking payments by PayPal.
yes,
You should never.
it's not the best practice. It's not good for this type of thing. Paying for something off of eBay or paying for, Netflix through PayPal, but for your Disney trip,
See, what
no.
you have to think about with
Disney
PayPal,
doesn't take PayPal. I'm just want to
No,
put
they
that
don't.
out there.
with PayPal, first of all, there are limits to how much they'll reimburse you if you're
There is that.
lost. And we're talking about, in this case, it was $60,000.
Would not have been covered.
Yeah, that's not going to get covered. And the way they were doing it, obviously, was they had set up the PayPal payment thing, and then each parent could go on there and deposit some money toward the trip until it was all paid, which sounds like a good idea, except there's no real way to keep track of that for yourself.
Well, here's another thing is with PayPal, you can kind of be anonymized on either side of that wall. You can put whatever bank account you want as whatever it gets deposited into, and you can put whatever name you want it to show up as on the other person's bank account. You can type it in word for word, so you can say Blue Sky Travel, but it could go into your personal checking account. They wouldn't know. And so there's a little bit of a scary thing with that.
And PayPal is a little like cash. As
Yeah.
soon as you get it, it's
It's
yours, and they can't really get it back. It's
Yeah.
cash. It's not like a check. It's not like a credit card.
Yeah,
There's no
and
guarantees
and
there.
banks aren't really involved, so you don't have that. The other key thing to look forward is when you do that, it's in the same, it's exactly going into what I was talking about, where it can be in their private account. If you're giving them even a check or credit card even, or whatever, however you're paying for this, like cash, you don't want to give it directly to the travel agent or the booking agent. They should not be taking any money from you directly.
Right, exactly. And that's what all the travel agents said when they were asked about this. They all said, we don't take money directly from our clients.
Yes.
We may take your credit card number to secure the reservations or the tickets or what
Yeah,
have you.
they're
But
acting on
The
your
money
behalf.
doesn't leave your account into ours at
Yeah.
any time. All you give us is our fees
Yes.
as the credit agent, whatever percentage that they get for themselves. So they should never be handling all of your travel fund.
No.
For the most part, and except for some really large, like we said, Sato Travel and some others, they may actually get the payment directly, but that's because they have the ability to immediately actually purchase the plane ticket or to issue you a voucher for your Disney ticket, whereas most people don't have that.
Yes, only if there are a few out there that will be able to issue you tickets for, whether it's through transportation or for the actual event directly. But in that case, you're handing them the money, they hand you the ticket or a voucher for a ticket right then and there. You can double check to make sure it's accurate and will work. But 90% of the time, I would say, what you're doing through them is usually reservations, which should not be large charges. And you usually pay for reservations,
Yeah.
at least in our experience, when you get to the location.
Right. You just
Not
put,
in
you usually
advance.
just put a deposit on
Yeah.
the hotel or whatever. And I mean, there are some prepaid, as we said, prepaid package deals that you can get, and then you would pay for everything in advance. But then they should have a package for you with all your
Yes.
numbers, your reservation numbers and so forth. And what all of the travel agents and credit card agencies would advise is immediately take that information and check it.
Yeah, double check it.
Call and make sure that your reservation is good. Not just because they may be scamming you, but even if it's someone who's legitimate, mistakes happen, reservations get dropped and stuff. Don't wait until the day of either. Do it immediately and then call again right before you get on that plane because there's
Things
a couple of
change.
things, right, that things change. And one thing that they were talking about, and I forgot to mention before, was sometimes what will happen is the travel agent, if they're scammy, will make the reservation and everything will be good. Once you had a chance to verify that, they call and cancel and they get the refund sent to them.
Yeah.
So that's another way where even if you have sent the money, even if they immediately went on there and made the reservation for you, if they made it under their name or their agency name instead of under your personal name,
Yeah.
they can get the refund to themselves. So that's something to be careful of.
And like you said, check it and check it often. Also check the details of the reservation. Make sure if you're going as a party of 7, that you're not going to be crammed into one room with 2 beds.
That's a good point, yes.
You might
yes.
want to double check to make sure you all fit. Make sure you all have all of your tickets that you asked for. Make sure you have all of the reservations you have at the times and check every detail because you never know.
Yeah, I read a case where they were talking about it was a group with again adults and kids, and they had separated the reservations so that it just wouldn't work because you'd have the adults over on one side of the building and the kids all the way at the other end doing who knows what.
Yeah, that's
nobody
never gonna work.
supervising. So yeah, they had to call and say, hey, that's not going to work. You need to rearrange
Yes.
these rooms or whatever you need to do.
All that good stuff.
So even if you have a good travel agent, these things can happen.
And that's another thing. Even if you're not doing a travel agent, talking about splitting people up in rooms across, make sure you call before you head down there if you're going on a Disney trip, or anywhere else rather, that you're booking hotel rooms for multiple people. Make sure you call in advance more than once before you get down there to confirm you can have rooms in the same wing or adjoining or whatever you need, if possible. A lot of places you can't do it when you book the room because they can't guarantee it, but usually when it's within 30 days of the event, they can usually narrow it down and say, yes, we can give you all your party in one wing like you need it to be. So there's no surprises when you show up and they send all the adults to that end and all the kids to that end, and then no good.
And you have
Problems.
fire extinguisher fights in the hallway. It happened in the hotel I was in. Yeah, another thing that people said to actually watch out for that might have been a red flag with this case. This one was actually kind of hard to catch because they were a legitimate travel agency. They had real travel agents working for them. They had booked other people's trips successfully. So you can't always, count on, well, just check with the BBB or whatever. It is a good idea to check with the Better Business Bureau. It is a good idea to check with Yelp and so forth. But that won't always help you. So there might have been some other things that people could have looked for in advance as kind of a warning.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, there weren't a whole lot. But had they done some checking with various legal agencies and so forth, they would have found out that the couple in question had other issues
Yeah.
that had come up over the years. So there was maybe a little bit of a red flag there where they might have been a little more careful with their money and how they paid them had they known that there had been some issues in the past. So you might still want to trust them, but not quite as much.
Yeah. The business may be good, but the owners may be bad, or vice versa. You never know.
Okay, so that was the case of John and Melanie Swopes and Blue Sky. We just do want to kind of stress that just because the company is called Blue Sky doesn't mean it's bad. This particular one is actually defunct, so they're not out there operating anymore.
Yes.
But check your individual agency. A lot of agencies have very similar names.
Yeah.
So one that's very good, maybe right next, may have a name that's almost exactly the same as one that's very bad. So you need to check with.
Like we were saying with the Facebook scamming,
Mm-hmm.
it could be one letter off, it could be a digit off. You never know.
And you know, a name like Blue Sky, it's so generic that anyone could name an agency something just like it.
Yeah.
I mean, as we said, there are dozens of agencies we found. Some of them were just flight aggregators, and they said so on their page. And you know, some of them were actual full service booking agents. I actually found another one called Blue Sky on the BBB that had an F rating, and I said, that's them. And then I looked at the address, and it was a different one. So do
Yeah.
check the Better Business Bureau. Do check the name. Do check to make sure that you're getting the right one.
Yeah. Check reviews too. That helps
And
sometimes.
reviews, right? And one thing to keep in mind with the reviews is people do write false reviews.
That's true.
Companies do pay people, or they simply ask friends or family members to go on and write lovely 4 and 5-star reviews for them, so that you think that, oh well, someone had a really good experience. But look at the overall rating. Look to see how many.
Yes.
Reviews
Check
there
the
are.
number of reviews and the ratio.
Yeah.
See if there's like 7 5-star reviews and 38 1-star reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 stars might be suspicious.
Right. That's exactly what I found with one of the companies that we were looking at the other day. The other thing is, if they only have 1 review and it's a 5-star, they may be a brand new company, or they may have just carefully renamed so that they have a new page on Yelp or whatever, so that they can then, you know, set up a new set of reviews. So you may have to look at their old name. And one thing that they did say is that a lot of times travel agents change names a lot.
Yeah.
It's really easy to open a travel agency, especially an online travel agency. You literally just request an EIN, which I did in like 10 minutes. You get one automatically. You don't even ever have to file your taxes. Anyone can have an EIN.
I've got
Doesn't
one.
mean you have a license. It doesn't mean that you are registered in your area. Yeah, it doesn't mean actually anything. It doesn't mean that you've ever actually ran a business at all. So they may have 20 or 30 EINs. They may be operating 4 or 5 different agencies under different names.
Yes.
That's something to keep in mind. Okay, so
Just be careful
Yeah.
and have safe travel.
and, it's 2 grumpy people. Stay tuned until next time when we talk about something.
Something else.
Okay. Blue Sky Journeys.